Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. Uh, we are continuing with the UPSC CSE series on art and culture. We have already completed one part of this, okay? Today it is lecture 2 and we will be seeing the art and culture area from Mauryan era onwards to the post-Mauryan period. Alright, so 2 chapters will be covered today. Second chapter is the post-Mauryan art and architecture is a big lengthier chapter, and the Mauryan era is a smaller chapter. So both are clubbed together and we will be seeing these two areas today. In the first lecture yesterday, we saw about prehistoric art and culture as well as the Harappan or Indus Valley art and culture. I hope you remember some of it. You can always connect it to the history portion we studied correspondingly, and it will be easier for you to remember. All right, art and culture by itself, it might seem a bit dry, and it might seem, it's not easy to remember or something. But if you connect it with history, it's very logical that that particular form of art existed in that time. Clear? For example, if we talk about painting or say pottery, etc., etc., all these are associated with a particular time period in history. And this is very logical. This is not something accidental or anything, and it's very much connectable. So try to correlate with ancient India that we already completed. Okay, so when we talk about today's session, that is arts of Mauryan period, think about the Mauryan period, what we have studied, the kings of Mauryan era, the religion or the type of state that existed during that time. All right, think about the kings like Chandragupta Maurya, Ashoka, so and so. All right, so Buddhism, Jainism, why these religions came forward, who patronized all these things, how did these religions become very popular during those times. So all those things will help you to get a better understanding about the portions that we are studying today. But since we are only focusing on art and culture, obviously, we will be speaking about certain important features and we'll move on. It's a bit dry topic, but let's see how it goes. Okay, so welcome to Madhav Sankar classes. If you are new here, please make sure to subscribe to this channel and also like the video. You can share it with your friends also so that they can also learn from these notes. I will upload the PDFs on my Telegram channel. The link is given here. It's also in the YouTube description section. You can say directly go and click it there and subscribe to this Telegram channel to get my PDFs. All right, so let's begin the first chapter for the day, Arts of the Mauryan period. So as an introduction, again, let's start with the time period that we are looking into. Okay, we are looking into an era of 6th century BC and forward. All right, so this is already, these things are covered in history, ancient India portion. So I'll be reading through it. This is a phase when we see some new religious and social movements, and all these movements starts in the Gangetic Valley. All right, after the collapse of Harappa, there has been a break in Indian history as far as civilization or any kind of urbanization is concerned. The second urbanization happens only very late, okay, after around 1500 years. And in the 6th century BC, we find these kinds of new religious and social movements in North India and the emergence of the Shramana tradition in Buddhism and Jainism. Okay, what is Shramana tradition? Shramana means what? It's a kind of tradition where the life is completely isolated from the worldly pleasures and all, and an ascetic kind of life is lived. Also, it is against the rigidity of Brahmanism. So these are the characteristics of Shramana tradition, and Buddhism and Jainism are the popular religions that came around this period. Around 62 plus religions came up, but these two were the most successful and most popular. And they became popular, why? Because the Varna system, which was put forth by Brahmanical order or the Hindu religion, was not at all acceptable for the lower Varnas. The Vaishyas and Shudras, they were fed up with the rigidity of Varna system and they wanted to somehow get away from it. They wanted to have an alternate path. Clear? I think already you know the reasons and all. I'm not going into that because that is a history portion. But anyway, these religions became extremely popular. And then the Mahajanavadas, were formed, the contemporaries of all these things. And among the Mahajanavadas, Magadha became the most prominent ones by conquering all the adjacent regions. And under the Nanda dynasty of Mahajanavadas or under the Nanda dynasty of Magadha, they became the supreme power in North India. But after Dhanananda, Chandragupta Maurya came to the throne with the help of Chanakya or Kautilya in 4th century BCE, and there starts the Mauryan era. In the Mauryan era, we have many important kings, but the most important or the greatest king of ancient India is none other than Ashoka. Ashoka, throughout his life, patronized Ajivikas. Okay, he was a believer in the Ajivika sect, but towards the end of it, especially after the Kalinga War and all, he started to patronize Buddhist tradition, and thereby the religion of Buddhism gained even more and more popularity. Once you get a royal patronage, obviously there will be considerable amount of growth. Okay, rather than completely in an isolated fashion, if the emperor if the state also supports the same, then the popularity of it will, be very humongous. And anyway, Ashoka gave patronization to Buddhism, and Buddhism flourished around this period. We also find worship of Yakshas and Mother Goddess during this time. Mother Goddess worship was there even before this. Yaksha images are also seen. But in times of Mauryan era, we see the continuation of this practice. Yakshas and Mother Goddesses are still worshipped. And Yaksha worship was very popular, even before the advent of Buddhism. And it later on was assimilated into Buddhism and Jainism. Clear? Even in the Hinduism, even before the arrival of Buddhism and Jainism, Yaksha worship was there in Hinduism. But once Buddhism and Jainism came forth and it started to evolve and all, finally Yaksha worship came to be assimilated into Buddhism and Jainism also. When we look into certain architectures and sculptures from all these religions, we will see that there are plenty of Yaksha and Yakshini figures and figurines. All right, so this is the time period that we are talking about, Mauryan era. Clear? So when we talk about Mauryan era, the most important thing, the most important form of architecture that comes to your mind is pillar. Undoubtedly pillar. Why? Because of our national emblem. Right? We know all about Sarnath pillar and all. So easily the first most important and obvious development that comes to your mind in Mauryan era art is pillar. Along with that, we will also be looking into some sculptures and then rock cut architecture. All right. So as I have mentioned, Buddhism and Jainism were getting very much popularity, and naturally buildings or architectural styles associated with these religions also emerged and flourished during this period. As far as Buddhism or Jainism is concerned, we have stupas, we have viharas, and similar monastic establishments. Okay, I think you already know what a chaitya is, what a vihara is, what a stupa is, etc. Usually stupas are built on top of a relic. All right, say as Buddha's fingernails or hair or some sort of relic. Above that, the stupa is constructed. Vihara is the place where the monks lived. The residential quarters of monks are known as viharas. And as far as chaityas are concerned, they are the prayer halls. So such structures associated with the dominant religion came forth during this period. Clear? Not only just that, we also have stone pillars, rock-cut caves, and such other monumental, figure sculptures. And when we look into it in an international perspective, we will see that these kinds of structures are not just happening in India. In certain part of Central Asia also, where India had very close connection, we see erection of pillars. Clear? Best example, the Achaemenian Empire. Achaemenian Empire existed contemporarily in Iranian area. Okay, it is the first Persian Empire that occurred in the modern day Iran region. So in Achaemenian Empire also, we come across erection of pillars. But there is slight difference. As far as Mauryan pillars are concerned, they are rock-cut pillars, which means it points to the craftsmanship or the skill of artisans. You are actually carving it out of a rock, all right, using various kinds of tools and all. You basically shape and mold the rock into a beautiful pillar. Those or such kinds of pillars are known as rock cut pillars, and that is a speciality of Mauryan era. While in Achaemenian region, the pillars are constructed in pieces by mason. All right, by assembling lots and lots of stones or bricks or whatever, the pillar is basically an assemblage of different pieces. So in artisanal quality or based on the skillsmanship, Mauryan pillars are far more superior. So Ashoka was ruling North India. All right. Throughout North India, the empire expanded, and later on he went down to Deccan and even to South India as well. If we look into these Ashokan pillars, we find that the top portion of most of these figures some kind of an animal. All right. Look into the image that is shown here. This is a pillar, example of a pillar. It is a lion pillar. Why it is called a lion pillar? Because the capital is lion. Capital means the top portion. Okay, this top portion is known as capital. That capital is a particular animal, and usually these pillars are named after or denoted after that animal. So this is a lion pillar. Why? Because the capital is lion. Some other animals also feature, such as bull, elephant, etc. etc. Then we find a square or circular abacus. Okay, so this portion up to the feet of these lions, that is the capital, from head to feet. Then if you look at it, you will see some kind of a drum, right? There is a drum sort of structure here. So this is either square or circular. This area is known as abacus. Okay, you have the capital, you have abacus, and then underneath the abacus, you have, in Mauryan pillars, generally you have an inverted kind of lotus, stylized lotus. These are very common features in Mauryan pillar architecture. And then obviously you have the shaft and the main pillar. Clear? So we find these sorts of pillars in plenty of sites. For example, Basara Bakira, Lauria Nandangarh, Rampurwa in Bihar, Sankisa and Sarnath in Uttar Pradesh. All these are very important sites for Maurya Empire. And in all these areas, we find plenty of pillars. If you remember, Ashoka is the first Indian emperor to communicate with people using edicts. And plenty of inscriptions are there. And most of the inscriptions are either, rock inscriptions or say pillar inscriptions. So plenty of architectural elements or sculptural elements can be seen in Mauryan era. Best example, Sarnath pillar. This is the Sarnath pillar. Okay, this image is the Sarnath pillar. We have the lion capital, and this is basically the national emblem. Right? We will talk about the Sarnath pillar in detail towards the end of this session. At that time, I will give you more details. But anyway, this pillar is, from where we get the national emblem. There are lion figures in the capital. Also, in the abacus part, we have a horse, bull, lion, and an elephant. Don't worry about it. We will look into it in depth towards the end of this session. But Sarnath pillar is also important for one particular reason. That is, it represents Dharma Chakra Pravartana. That is the first ceremony of Buddha. Alright, that is a Dharma Chakra also. Okay, I mean, in the pillar, there's supposed to be another capping Dharma Chakra above the capital. But our national emblem does not have that. But if you take that pillar as a whole, then there should also have been one Dharma Chakra over and above the capital. But anyway, this pillar is a representation of the first ceremony of Buddha or the Dharma Chakra Pravartana. Alright. So, as I have mentioned earlier, Yakshas and Yakshinis were very much common in this period. And it got assimilated into almost all the religions that existed around this period. We find statues of Yakshas and Yakshinis in Patna, modern day Bihar region, Vidisha, Mathura, etc. etc. But again, if you look at it closely, most of these are standing figures. There is an example here. This is a Yaksha figure from Parkham. And most of these are standing figures. It's not in any other position. Another important thing that we note is it is very polished. Clear? It is not like the terracotta figures in Harappan civilization. It is not crude at all. It is highly polished works. We will talk about Didarganj Yakshini towards the end of this session. At that time, you can see the images which are, brilliant workmanship. All right. Then again, if we look into this image a bit closer, you will see that the faces, they are full round with pronounced cheeks and physiognomic details. Physiognomic details. All right. Look at this face. This is very circular. and all the physiognomic details are very clearly given. It's not like a rough work, or it's not like a crude kind of work. Terracotta figurines show a very different delineation of the body as compared to sculptures. That is also true. As far as terracotta is concerned, the kind of substance is different, right? Terracotta is one sort of substance, and these kinds of stones, pillars, or sculptures are different. So because of the difference in material and all, the outcome or the output of these, the output is also different. As far as sculptures are concerned, we find the surface extremely polished, all right, and very, very brilliant craftsmanship. But terracotta figurines are not that much of a superior type, but still, compared to Indus Valley and all, the output is much, much, much of high quality. Another very important sculpture that we see in Mauryan era is the monumental rock-cut elephant in Thauli. I will show you an image in the upcoming slide. The Thauli elephant, here it is. Okay, you can see the elephant, you can see that massiveness overall. All right, it is a rock-cut architecture or a rock-cut sculpture. See the workmanship and the skill of the person. Okay, it's not easy to do this, and the how perfectly that person has did it is also very much curious. Clear? Then rock-cut cave carved in Barabar Hills near Gaya. Just like these sculptures and all these things, we have pillars, etc. We also have cave architecture or rock-cut caves. Best example of a rock-cut cave is in the Barabar Hills. Okay, located in the Gaya region of Bihar, and this cave is known as Lomas Rishi Cave. Very important, Lomas Rishi Cave. Why? I will again show you an image. Lomas Rishi Cave has a semicircular Chaitya arch at the entrance. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. All right, this is the Lomas Rishi Cave. So you can see that semicircular arch in the entrance, right? This entrance, the top portion of that door is semicircular. All right, this is located in the Barabar Hills in Bihar. Now, elephant prints carved in high relief is present there. It can't be seen in that picture. Interior hall of this cave is rectangular with a circular chamber at the back. All right, the internal picture is also not given in your textbook, but please understand that in general, it is rectangular in nature, and towards the back of it, you have a circular kind of room. So this would be the plan of that building, the Lomas Rishi Cave. Okay, and the entrance is located on the sides of the wall of the hall, on the side wall of the hall. It's not in the front side or anything. The entrance is actually from the side. And this cave is very much important because this has been donated by Ashoka for the Ajivika sect. It is not given for Buddhism. Lomas Rishi Cave is associated with Ajivika sect. It has been donated to this sect by Ashoka. As I have mentioned earlier, throughout his life, or at least in the major part of his life, Ashoka was an Ajivika. Only later did he become a Buddhist. Clear? So Lomas Rishi Cave is also very much important for us. Now, coming back to stupas. As I have mentioned earlier, stupas are always constructed over the relics of Buddha. All right, I mean, we will study about the Sanchi Stupa in detail at the end. At that time, things will be more clearer. But anyway, they are constructed over the relics of Buddha, and they are in various parts of the country. We can see some in Rajagraha, Vaishali, Vethadipa, and Pava in Bihar, Kapilavastu, Allagappa, and Ramagrama in Nepal, Kushinagar, and Pipalvina in Uttar Pradesh. Don't worry, you don't have to by heart the whole thing, but just understand that stupas are also very much there in different parts of the India, especially in the Buddhism region, in the Buddhist circuit. All right, stupa, vihara, chaitya, all are part of Buddhist and Jaina monastic complexes. Jainism also have these kinds of monastic areas, but the only thing is most of them are for Buddhism. Most of the chaityas or viharas that we see are associated with Buddhism, although all these structures are common, both for can be seen both in Buddhism and Jainism. Among all the stupas, the most important one is Sanchi Stupa, which we will take up in detail towards the end. But in a very quick review, Sanchi Stupa is made of bricks. It is not rock cut. It is not made of stone. The original structure is made of bricks. And this was constructed during the time of Ashoka. And later on, this original brickwork was covered with stone. And then lots of new additions were made into it. Clear? Many additions have been made into the Sanchi Stupa later on, but the original work was done with bricks. Alright, and we can also find a lot of inscriptional evidences mentioning the donors, their profession, so and so. In these stupas and all, I mean, these are constructed not just by the king himself, okay? The king does not provide the full fund or anything. Obviously, king donates the most, but the devotees, ordinary people, the influential sessions in the society, all such people also donate something into the construction of all these things. Correct. If you even now when we go to temple and all, people sometimes put a small amount in the box, kept there, right? So that is a kind of donation that we give to say temple or church or whatever. So in those times also such practices were there. And we can actually see inscriptional evidences mentioning the names of donors or say their profession, etc. etc. Sometimes these donations were given by guilds as such. Clear? Oh, so a shreni of artisans provides something. Shreni of carpenters provides something. So such kinds of donations can also be seen in these kinds of inscriptional evidences associated with such monumental structures. Thing is, very few examples of royal patronage are there. Patrons range from lay devotees, gahapatis, and kings and guilds, etc. etc. Just now I mentioned this point. We also find very few inscriptions mentioning the names of artisans such as Kanna at Pitalkora and his disciple Balaka at Kondane caves in Maharashtra. Alright, here we can also find the names of the artisans. Earlier, I said that we find the names of the guild or we find the names of the donis, etc., etc., or the devotees, etc., etc., but not the artisan's name. Who built it? Who was the real, actual person who constructed it? It may have been done on the orders of the emperor, but who is the architect or the artisan who is associated with it? Such inscriptions are not so much seen in many places. Only in a very few number of areas we see it. And the examples include Kanna at the Pitalkora region and his Kanna at Pitalkora and his disciple Balaka in the Kondane caves. Okay, a couple of examples. Now, stupas were elaborately built with certain additions like enclosing of circumambulatory path with railings and sculptural decorations, etc., etc. So, what is a circumambulatory path? Circumambulatory path means pradakshina pada. Clear? A stupa, even if you go to a temple, you conduct the pradakshina, right? You can, maybe 3 or 7 pradakshina, something like that. You do. So that pradakshina patha is the circumambulatory path. So later on, as I have said, in the original stupa, many additions were made by later kings and emperors. So we find additions of circumambulatory path. We find additions of railings surrounding the circumambulatory path. Railings means fences. We find more sculptural decoration that goes on into these buildings. Clear? We will look into it in a bit detail as we move on. Stupa consists of a cylindrical drum and a circular anda with a harmika and chhatra on top. I will show you the image. At that time, you will understand it. Okay. Next chapter that will come up. At that time, I will again show it to you. Okay. In the Post-Mauryan architecture, there is a figure of the construction or the architecture of a stupa. At that time, every part, you can see an image where every part is named or properly marked and all. It will be easier for you to remember. Anyway, for now, just understand that stupa has many parts. It consists of a cylindrical drum. So the cylindrical drum. Cylindrical drum of the stupa and a circular anda. That is, All right, then on top of it you will see an anda, and then on top of that you will see a harmika, and and then again here you will see a chhatra. Don't worry about it, I will show you a proper image. Anyway, circumambulatory path and gateways were also later on added. So this is the basic structure, but later on a pradakshina pada or a circumambulatory path is added, and then to it a vedika or a kind of enclosure or railing is also added. And finally, we also add a gateway, that is torana. In all these four sides, you can also see a torana or a gateway. So these are later on additions. It is not a part of the original building that was built by the initial king, Mauryas. In the early phase, Buddha is depicted symbolically using certain symbols. For example, footprints, stupas, lotus throne, chakra. The human image is not there. Buddha as a human being comes only very late. Clear? As I have mentioned in our ancient India classes, Buddha did not like the idea of idolatry. Idol worship was not practiced in Buddhism. It came up eventually. Alright, initially Buddha was worshipped in the form of his relics. So stupa consists of Buddha's relics. Events of Buddha's life, such as the Jataka stories and all these are inscribed or depicted in the railings of Toranas, etc. etc. Railings and Toranas and all. Clear? The walls and all are beautifully carved with the life stories of Buddha. Best example, Jataka tales. Birth, renunciation, enlightenment, Dharmachakra Pravartana, Mahaparinirvana, all these can be seen in such depictions. Dharmachakra Pravartana, the first sermon of Buddha. And Mahaparinirvana means what? Mahaparinirvana means attaining samadhi. Okay, passing away into the next world. We also find certain important Jataka stories such as Chadanda Jataka, Vidura Pundita Jataka, Ruru Jataka, Sibi Jataka, Vesantara Jataka, and Shama Jataka. These stories are also seen, in general, Jataka tales are seen in the walls of these kinds of monuments. Now, focusing on lion capital at Sarnath. Clear? You can see a very high graphic image here of the lion capital. Take a closer look at it. It is found in Sarnath region near Varanasi, and it is a sculpture that was done in Mauryan era. And it depicts the first sermon or the Dharmachakra Pravartana of Buddha. The capital was built by the king Ashoka. Sarnath pillar, okay, the capital of the Sarnath pillar was actually a construction by Ashoka only, in Ashoka's period only. And this represents the Dharmachakra Pravartana. And lion capital consists of 5 important components. You have the shaft. Shaft means the pillar area. Okay, you have, it's not shown in this picture. Let me see if there is another picture. No. Okay, there is a central shaft, that the pillar region. Okay, you know it. Then you have a lotus bell base that you can see. This is the lotus bell base. A drum on the bell base with 4 animals proceeding clockwise. That can also be seen. Here is the drum. Also called the abacus. You can see 4 animals here. Alright, which are those animals? Again, I will tell you in the next slide where I will be showing the pictures. The figures of 4 majestic adosed lions. That's also there. You can see 3 lions in the capital here. 1 lion is at the back. Okay, so it can't be seen. So a total of 4 lions are there. And finally, the crowning element or the Dharmachakra, a very large wheel. So that is supposed to be above this, okay, on top of the capital, but that is not shown here. Our national emblem is the capital without the crowning wheel and the lotus base. Very, very important. Without the lotus base. So this is India's national emblem. Clear? We do not have the lotus base, and that Dharmachakra is already not shown here. So that lion capital from Sarnath without lotus base and the Dharmachakra or the crowning wheel is the national emblem of the Republic of India. Now, that same image is split into 3 different parts here. Look at it once again. Capital has 4 lines. firmly seated back to back in a circular abacus. That you know. If you observe it very closely, you can see that the facial musculature of the lions is very strong. Lions are very strong. Clear? I mean, this image is more clear, I think. If you look at the lion's face, you can see, you know, the whiskers can be seen, the stretch marks in its lips can be seen. The hair or the mane of the lion is very beautifully carved. Clear? So that is the level of artisanal work that is depicted in lion capital from the Mauryan period. The surface of the sculpture is heavily polished, which is typical of Mauryan period. Again, polished substances or polished surfaces are a very common characteristic of Mauryan sculptures. We will also study about Didarkhanj Yakshini. At that time, you can see the level of polishing. The abacus has the depiction of a chakra, all right, having 24 spokes. Our Indian national flag has that chakra with 24 spokes. All right, so abacus has a depiction of a chakra with 24 spokes in all the 4 directions. Again, important. We see only one. Okay, this is the one that we see. There is a chakra here. There is one on the other side and there is one on the back. So actually in the abacus, there are 4 chakras, each with 24 spokes. And between each chakra, there is an animal. All right, and all these animals go in a clockwise direction. There is a bull, there's a horse, an elephant, and a lion. You can see the bull and the horse here. Elephant comes next, and at the other side, you have the lion. These are the 4 animals depicted in the abacus of Sarnath pillar. All right, and then you have the Dharma Chakra. So the circular abacus is supported by an inverted lotus capital that is shown here, the inverted lotus. Again, a common feature in Buddhist, Mauryan pillar construction, the lotus capital. A lion capital has also been found at, oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. Okay, you can also find an lion capital in Sanchi region, but that is, completely destroyed. It's not in a good, in a proper fashion. I mean, a lot of it has been lost and it has been broken and all. The national emblem is from Sarnath, not from Sanchi. Okay, for now, I will just cut this out. Anyway, second important one after Sarnath pillar is the Didarkhanj Yakshini. I will look into your comments in a bit. Just let me finish this one also. Didarkhanj Yakshini. Again, look at the craft. This is why I told you about the polishing. How much polishing has been done into these statues. Look, you can see it from here. The reflections of the light in this figure, it's almost like a mirror. Okay, so such highly polished works are characteristics of Mauryan era. This Didarkhanj Yakshini statue, this is actually life size. It is as tall as a human being. Clear? And it depicts a Yakshini holding a Chauri. Chauri means fly whisk. Okay, you can see that here. She is holding a fly whisk in her right hand. All right, and this sculpture is obtained from Didarkhanj region in modern day Patna and also is attributed to the Mauryan period. That is why this statue is known as Didarkhanj Yakshini. Now, what is the substance? This statue is actually made from sandstone. All right, it is made of sandstone with very, very high level of polishing. Now you have to identify the different features by looking into the statue. Just like yesterday we talked about the dancing girl and all. Look into this image and try to identify the feature. Chauri. Okay, the fly whisk. In which hand does she have this fly whisk? She holds it in her right hand. What happened to the left hand? Left hand is broken. We do not have the left hand. Okay, it's supposed to be here, but the left hand is gone. It's broken. Now let's look into the face. Face has, rounded features. Okay, it's not an elongated face or anything. It is a very rounded face. Fleshy kind of cheeks. Okay, it's not a bonish kind of thing. It's a very fleshy kind of cheek. While the neck is relatively small in proportion. Also correct. Not a long neck. It is a comparatively thicker neck and it's, it's not long. It is small. So proportionally, the neck is a bit small for this statue. The eyes, nose, lips, all these are very sharp, very beautifully carved. Necklace with beads is worn around the neck and hanging till the belly. You can see two necklaces here. One, around the neck, okay, very close, tight one. And then you have the longer chain, which is flowing all the way down to her belly. Thick bell ornaments adorn the feet. If you look into the feet, you can see some beautiful ornaments there also, just like the ones that modern day dancers and or use. You can see a very beautiful ornament in the feet. Hair is tied in a knot at the back. It's not a flowing hair. All right, it is actually tied at the back in a kind of a knot. You can see the back side of the statue also, and here the neck is the hair can be seen very clearly. All right, so these are the features of the Darganjakshini. If you observe, you can actually identify some more features. For example, in the front part, you can see that the both legs, the entire statue stands on two legs. But in the back, the legs are not shown, but the drapery is covering the entire region. So the legs are not separated in the back side of the image. Only it's filled with drapery. The drapery is also very beautifully implemented. You can see that the folds of the drapery and all very beautifully carved out from the sandstone. Okay, all in general, comparatively fleshier kind of construction. Okay, it's not a tight kind of thing. It's not stiff or anything. It's actually constructed in a fleshier manner. You can even see the skin. Okay, if you look at the abdomen part and all, you can actually see the folds of the skin itself. Clear? So that is the level of craftsmanship the artisans in Mauryan age had. And the Darganjakshini and along with the Sarnath pillar are two beautiful examples of Mauryan sculpture. In that line also, in Sarnath pillar, in the line also you can see, look at the feet of this lion. In the feet of the lion, you can actually see the muscles that when you stand with so much intensity, the muscles, the nerves and all can be visible, right? You can see that standing out. That is even that minute detail is carved into the structure. I will enlarge this picture for your better understanding. Look at the lion's leg. Clear? So that is the level of perfection or level of craftsmanship that we see in Mauryan era. So that brings us to the end of the first chapter, and now the lengthier chapter, the post-Mauryan trends in Indian art and architecture, where we will be seeing about different kinds of caves, okay, Ajanta, Ellora, Elephanta, etc., etc. Also, we will be seeing about some important temples, and then certain other trends that developed after Mauryan period. Before that, any questions? Good evening, Sushma. Good evening, Satya. Good evening, Seema. Addition of circumambulatory path and gateways were related to economic enhancement of the region or invention of these features added. It's not exactly, I'm not exactly sure about it. The textbook also does not say what does that show, but more or less these were added for lot of purposes, maybe for easier approach for devotees. Circumambulatory path, for example, that is something constructed for devotees. Clear? And similarly, fences, that could also have been some, it cannot be, it's not easy to attribute it to an economic sense, because these are not something very costly or anything. Clear? So may not be exactly economic in nature. If that was the condition, then Ashoka himself could have done it. Mauryan Empire was very much, the economy was very good. Only towards the end did it collapse. Okay, so that may not be the exact reason. In the South Indian temples also, for example, kings comes later on and they will simply add more and more structures and enlarging the initial structure. The original structure is kept intact, and outside it more and more developments are done. For maintenance purpose, for making it much more grandiose. Clear? I mean, this is the original stupa, and stupa is built on top of a Buddha's relic. Clear? So if the upcoming kings try to construct something on their own, they can't still construct a stupa. Why? Because that they don't have that relic. That relic is in the original structure. So it's better to modify the original structure and make it much more grandiose. And obviously, as time went on, craftsmen and artisans, developed much more skill and much more passion and all. So you can see that the Jataka tales, etc., etc., are beautifully inscribed and carved into the walls and all. That shows the enhancement of artisanal skills, and craftsmanship, etc., in the later times. So, chapter 4, Post-Mauryan trends in Indian art and architecture. And what is this period? Okay, what is the time period we are talking about? The Post-Mauryan period of arts and crafts. So, it starts from 2nd century BC. Okay, our story here starts with 2nd century BC, where India was ruled by plenty of smaller kingdoms, such as Shungas, Kanwas, Kushanas were not small, but still not as large as Mauryas. Then Guptas, etc., in north and central India. In central India, we have Shatavahanas. Further south, we have Ikshvahus, Abhiras, Vakatakas, etc., in western part. All this we have already covered in ancient Indian lectures. So India was ruled by a lot of dynasties, a lot of kingdoms, a lot of empires. Naturally, all these will have their own contribution into the field of art and architecture. But at the same time, because they took form where once a large empire stood, they would have certain features which are common. All right. But another one thing common to all these post-Mauryan kingdoms is the fact that most of them, almost all of them, were patrons of Brahmanism. We saw the revival of Brahmanical order in post-Mauryan period. Buddhism started to go down and Brahmanism began to come up. We also see the Bhakti forms of the same. For example, Vaishnavas and Shaivas, etc., also came forth. Kanishka was a very famous example of a Shaivite. All right. So revival of Brahmanism. So we also find lots of Brahmanical features in the architectural works of post-Mauryan period. And which are the major sites? It includes Vidisha, Bharut, Bodh Gaya. Okay, plenty of them. I'm not going to read every one of them. Just try to understand the place and where it is located, which state. Okay, at least that try to remember. Bodh Gaya, Bihar. Mathura, Uttar Pradesh. Clear? Udayagiri, Odisha. So likewise, just try to understand the place and the state. A rough idea. Unless if you are history optional, in which case you have to pinpoint the place in the map. Now, starting with Bharut. Okay. In Bharut, we can see many tall sculptures, many tall works. Okay, you can see the Yakshini figure in Bharut here. You can see the image. Generally, very tall figurines. But the sculptural volume is in low relief, maintaining linearity. That is correct. This is actually carved into a surface. It's not like the old Mauryan work where the entire thing has a three-dimensional character, very bulky, very fleshy kind of thing. Here, that sort of volume is absent. Right? Huh? I mean, it is, it is just protruding out from the rock. That's it. You don't have that rounded, you don't have that full fleshy kind of realistic construction. Okay, so the sculptural volume goes down in the post-Mauryan period, especially in Bharut region. Images stick to the picture plane. It's not like a standalone image. It's not like a whole statue like the Didarganj Yakshini, but the image actually is on a plane. Correct? Illusion of three-dimensionality. That's it. There is no three-dimensionality as such we can speak about, but there is that illusion of three-dimensionality because it has some depth. That's all. It's not proper depth or anything, but just enough to give it some kind of lifelike feature. But there is a very good clarity in the narrative. All right. I mean, if you are carving out something, then there should be some associated story. Correct? You might be carving about Jataka tales, or maybe you would be carving the figure of a god, whatever. But there is a good clarity in whatever is being done. And main events are focused and constructed. There is a proper order of narration. Okay, you can find narrative panels. Narrative panels means what? The set of panels that tells you something. It might be a story, it might be a message, whatever. There is a narration. There's a guide. All right. So such narrative panels can be seen where fewer characters, but as the time progresses, others also starts appearing. Initially, the narrative panels consisted of only the essential characters, the important characters who are part of that narration. But as time went on, the artisans and craft people became more and more experts in their job. So it's not just the main characters that are seen. You can also see many other characters, non-essential characters in the background also. Clear? So we can see that gradual elevation into a higher skill. In certain cases, more than one event at one geographical place is clubbed. Okay, so every event happens in some kind of geographical plane. Right now, some stories happen on a mountain setup. Some happens in the shore of a river, in the banks of a river. Clear? Some happens in an urban setup. So the geographical location is very, very important. And we can see that more than one event is actually clubbed into similar geographic plane. But only a single main event. Okay, the main event is very well portrayed it's much more expressed, while others the minor events are in the background, less important. We can see folded hands in the narratives. All right, again, it's not shown here, but we can see actually folded arm positions. Okay, we can see the bend of the arm and all. This is actually shown flat, clinging to the chest. All right, so if there is a position like this, a folded arm position, and if this is actually shown clinging towards the chest, so that extra three-dimensionality is not there, or even if it is there, it is very less. Clear? It is basically mounted on a surface. That's it. It is actually just enough to protrude out from the base surface. That's all. But later on, as time went on, we see that it becomes more and more figurative. It becomes more and more three-dimensional. And you can see much more depth in the later figures. Earlier, all these were basically inscribed into the surface. Or, I mean, not inscribed. Actually, it's, the surface is so modified so that it just protrudes from the surface, not inscribed. Okay, inscription means carving into the surface, and this is actually a sculpture work, which is like embossing. Okay, the entire thing should come out. All right, now shallow carving. Already I mentioned this. Most of the figures are carved in a shallow fashion. Again, look into these examples here. You can see that here is in the image at the top, you can see an elephant figure here. But this elephant figure is not voluminous. Just compare this elephant figure with the one I showed you earlier here. Here the elephant is completely projected out from the rock surface. So very fleshy, very intense, okay, completely three-dimensional. But here you can see that it is just depicted in a panel in a two-dimensional fashion, but just given some kind of extra projection from the base level. That's it. The projection of the hands and feet were not possible because it was shallow carving. You can see the folded arm here. Okay, let me enlarge that. You can see a person with folded arms just towards the side, front portion of that elephant. If you look at it closely, you can see that the hand and all, okay, the body features are all within that two-dimensional plane. There is not enough to project outwards. This is a drawback of post-Mauryan kind of architecture. General stiffness in the body and arms. Again, these are very stiff. It's not like the rounded, fleshy kind of thing that was there in the Mauryan period. This is much more stiff and much more, not so much lifelike. We can find many such narrative, reliefs in Bharut. Best example is Queen Maya Devi's tree, elephant descending. Okay, that is the one shown here. Queen Maya Devi is Siddhartha's mother, Gautama Buddha's mother, and this is actually a belief of Buddhism. The elephant is shown, going towards her. It's basically it signifies the birth of Buddha. Okay, Queen Maya Devi's dream. So that is a beautiful panel in the post-Mauryan period. Depiction of Jataka story is very simple, narrated by clubbing the events according to the geographical location. Ruru Jataka, where the Bodhisattva deer is rescuing a man on his back, can also be seen. That is the second image shown here. This is the Ruru Jataka. Ruru Jataka actually tells the story of the deer and the man. Okay, the deer actually helps the man, saves the life of the man, and escapes him from danger. But later on, this man points out the location of the deer to the emperor, who tries to kill it. So this is actually a part of the Ruru Jataka. Again, a very famous tale. Everyone knows about all these things. So that is also depicted in the post-Mauryan sculptures. Problem is, this is also much similar to a 2D narrative. It does not have that voluminous. It does not have that fleshy character or anything. It's merely, a small, say, a minor projection from the base surface. Regional stylistic variations also began to emerge. Now the Mauryan Empire is gone, and its place was taken by various small kingdoms. So naturally, each of them had its own attributes to add, its own contributions. This led to the emergence of many regional stylistic variations. One main characteristic in all the male images of 1st and 2nd century BC is the noted headgear. Yesterday also, when we talked about Harappan or Indus Valley bearded priest and all, we found this noted headgear. In almost all the works in the 1st and 2nd century BC, that is the post-Mauryan period, we can see that all the male figurines have a noted headgear. That is one of the common features that we find in post-Mauryan sculptures. Now let's look into one particular sculpture or one particular stupa in Sanchi. Before that, questions? Yeah, the gateways heights were increased, etc., etc. That is all correct. Okay, these were additions that were made eventually. Toranas, etc., were built lately. In certain cases, more carvings had been induced into certain walls, etc. So all that came up in the later period and all. So basically modifying and renovating the original work. That's it. Even now that's there, right? For example, Taj Mahal. Even now, maintenance works of Taj Mahal are done. Right? I mean, maybe not new additions. New additions are not made to preserve the heritage site as such, but still maintenance works, etc., are done. So in those days, in older times, certain small sorts of additions were done by eventual kings. If we look into the Akshardham temple, we can see that that temple is still being constructed. Okay, some portion of that temple always keeps on renovated, or some additions are made. Even in South India, here in Padmanabha Swami temple, there has been certain additions, etc., made to accommodate the new things and all. So such things always happen, keep on happening. But in ancient India, these structures were very, very important. Why? Because state and religion may not have been exactly different. State and religion is not completely isolated between each other as it is today. Okay, today there is a law which states that state cannot have India is a secular state. It does not have a religion, right? But so modern days, we do not find too much religious work or such monuments being constructed. Just think about it. We have this Statue of Unity. Okay, the Sardar Sarovar statue is there. Other than that, can we think of anything in such a majestic fashion that has been constructed in any recent times in India? It's not so easy, right? Akshardham temple is there, of course, but other than that, we do not see any governmental or any state works as such. Understood? So, but in ancient times, the rapport between the state and religion was entirely different. So it was up to the king. I mean, these kinds of structures and monuments were built and renovated and recarved, etc., by those kings to show their glory, show their power, etc., etc. So we find it much more commonly in the ancient period. It keeps on decreasing, and eventually in the modern day, today, it's almost, absent. Sanchi. So Sanchi has, couple of stupas, 3 stupas actually. I think it is 3. I want to check the number to be exact. But anyway, Stupa 1, that is our concern here. Stupa 1 at Sanchi has upper as well as a lower Pradakshinapada. Okay, circumambulatory path. There are two circumambulatory paths, upper and lower. Look at this the depiction. There is two Pradakshina pathas. This is the upper one and this is the lower one. Clear? So this is a depiction of this is actually the side view of this Sanchi Stupa. So two Pradakshina pathas are there. Now, 4 decorated Toranas and events from the life of Buddha and Jataka tales are depicted. Again, Torana means gateway. So you can see 4 gateways. Okay, 1 here, 2, 3, 4. In each of these Toranas, beautifully carved depictions from Buddha's life as well as Jataka tales can be seen. Look at an example here. This is a stone carving into the Sanchi Stupa. See the artisanal quality, very beautiful depiction. The posture gets naturalistic and there is no stiffness in the body. That we can see, the elephant and all, it's much more realistic than what we saw earlier. So it's getting much more natural. There is no more stiffness or anything. That rounded, fleshy character is back. Clear? Considerable projection in the picture space. Again, yes, it is not like just protruding out from the base surface. There is considerable projection. Alright, it has that three-dimensional character. So naturally, as the artisanal quality increased, the narration also started to get elaborated. That is obvious. Okay, once that quality, the skill increases, naturally, the thing that you are trying to narrate also becomes elaborate. Symbols continue to be used representing Buddha. So even now, Buddha do not have a human form. Buddha is still depicted using certain symbols. Here also, in Sanchi Stupa also, we see the dream episode being portrayed. Siege of Kushinara, another event. Buddha's visit to Kapilavastu and Ashoka's visit to Ramgrama. All these are seen in Sanchi Stupa. What are the important items that are presented here? What are the important events presented in Sanchi Stupa? We can see the dream episode, Queen Maya Devi's dream, Siege of Kushinara, Buddha's visit to Kapilavastu, and Ashoka's visit to Ramgrama. Alright, so again, look into the different parts of a stupa. You have the Chhatri. Chhatri is the umbrella-like structure at the top of the stupa. Then you can see this Harmika, which is the surrounding railing at the top. It's not a railing, it's a small structure just surrounding the Chhatri. Then the Anda. Anda is the main portion. Okay, the massive semicircular portion, Anda. Pradakshina Pada we already looked into. Torana also we looked into, the gateway. Then we have Methi, another way of representing this lower Pradakshina Pada. Then Vedika. Vedika is the outer railing. Okay, outer railing enclosing the Pradakshina Pada is known as Vedika. And then, Torana we already mentioned. Alright, so these are the different parts of a stupa. Anda is also shown sometimes. Okay, Anda is already given here. Okay, fine, it's fine. It's given here. So all these are the different parts of a stupa. And this one is a rough example of Sanchi Stupa. Alright. Now coming to some important schools of art in this period. Mathura, Sarnath and Gandhara. Okay, very, very important. You have to identify the important features of each of these schools as well as the difference between the styles of these three. Mathura, Sarnath and Gandhara. So, as I have mentioned so far, Buddha did not have a human figure until this point of time. The first instance where we see the Buddha in a human form is Mathura and Gandhara. Mathura and Gandhara schools basically gave a human figure to Buddha. So where is this Gandhara region? If you remember from ancient India, Gandhara is the northwestern Indian subcontinent. Okay, not India, Indian subcontinent, modern day Pakistan region and all. So here we can actually see the confluence of local as well as Greek traditions. After Alexander went back, there emerged a couple of Greek settlements and dynasties in the Gandhara region. Okay, Bactria, Parthia, etc. So it is a confluence of Greek as well as local tradition. So from the Greeks, we borrowed the Hellenistic features. If you have seen some of the Greek sculptures in movies or paintings or something, you will see that the depiction is more like in a very Hellenistic picture. It's not natural or anything. Highly Hellenistic picture. Okay, let me see if there are some examples. Yeah, okay, this one. This is an example of Gandhara art. All right, both are examples of Gandhara art. Look at the shoulder and all. It is very uptight. It's not something, human. Okay, a lot of Hellenistic features are added into the depiction. I will show you a better example towards the end. Okay, I think you might have seen many Roman sculptures and all. Right, it has its own method, etc., etc. So we will look into it at the end. Okay, but anyway, Gandhara features a lot of Hellenistic features. That was one of the prime attributes of Gandhara school. Coming to Mathura school. In Mathura, the sculptures are found at Sankor in Punjab and certain places in Uttar Pradesh, etc., etc. Buddha image at Mathura is modeled on the lines of earlier Yaksha images. So very round, very fleshy, etc., etc. Alright, we also find an early Jain Tirthankar. Similarly, headless Kanishka. If it is headless, then how do we know it is Kanishka? Because it is written Kanishka towards the feet of that statue. That is how we know it is Kanishka. Then plenty of Vaishnava and Shaiva images. Vishnu and Shiva represented by their ayuthas or weapons. All these are seen in Mathura school. So the volume of the images is very well projected out of the picture plane. Okay, so beautiful sculpturing, that fleshy character is back. Garments of the body are clearly visible and they cover the left shoulder. So this is the Sangol image. Okay, this is the Sangol image. If you look at it, the projection or the depth of the sculpture is much more compared to the Post-Mauryan, the early Post-Mauryan sculptures and all. So that fleshy character is back. Garments also, if you look into it, this sculpture actually wears a bottom garment. If you look at it, it is also much more prominent. Clear? It is not like a transparent garment. It is much more thicker and it is very prominent in Mathura. And wherever it is seen, it is actually over the left shoulder. Okay, these are Gandhara, but in Mathura school, it is over the left shoulder. Okay, here it is over the left shoulder, but this is a Bodhisattva from Gandhara. All right. Yeah, but anyway, in 2nd century CE, we see that the images in Mathura starts to become more and more fleshier and sensual. Okay, it's clearly shown with in a very beautifully carved fleshier structure, no stiffness, very rounded bodies and all. So naturally, it gets more and more sensual. Late 4th century Common Era, massiveness and fleshiness is reduced. So earlier itself, it was all reduced, but then in 2nd century onwards, we see that it gets more and more sensual. And after a couple of centuries, it again goes back. That massiveness and that fleshiness keeps on reducing. Flesh becomes more and more tightened. It becomes more and more stiff. Volume of the drapery also gets reduced. Clear? That voluminous drapery is gone and starts to become much more transparent. That thickness is very, very, very reduced. So we see, at the early Post-Mauryan era, obviously the artisanal quality is less. There is no rounded features or anything. It is barely protruding out from the base surface. But around 2nd century CE and all, we find the Mathura school becoming much more sensual and much more realistic. But by the 4th century CE, late 4th century CE, we see that all these rounded fleshy attributes are going back and it actually becomes much more stiff and rigid. All right. Now, the transparent quality of the robes of Buddha is very evident. As I have mentioned, that thickness of the cloth goes down and it becomes much more transparent. Okay, look into these images. In this image in particular, so in general, the shawl that Buddha is wearing is very, very transparent. You can see his body features through the garment. Right now, I mean, you can clearly see the arm here. All right, you can see the chest projections here. So that drapery becomes extremely thin. Sarnath and Kosambi also emerged as important centers of art. Okay, Buddha images in Sarnath. Here we see plain transparent drapery covering both shoulders. Alright, so this is again a Gandhara one, but we can see drapery just like this one. Okay, drapery covering both shoulders are a common feature of Sarnath Buddha. Halo around the head has very little ornamentation. Halo means this thing. Okay, this is the halo. Halo has very little ornamentation. This is again true for this image. There is no decoration or ornamentation here. It is very plain. That is another feature of Sarnath school. Mathura Buddha images have folds in the drapery and the halo is profusely decorated. Clear? In the Mathura school, the drapery has many folds and the halo is very beautifully or intricately decorated. It's not plain or it's not less ornamented as Sarnath school. It is very well decorated, very beautifully carved. Mathura school, okay, that is the main difference. The halo is one of the biggest differences between Mathura and Sarnath school. All right, important stupa sites outside Gangetic Valley includes Devini Mori in Gujarat. Not too much important, just an example of an Buddhist site, an important stupa site outside the Gangetic Valley. That is in Gujarat. That is the Devini Mori. Not too much important, just an extra point from the textbook. That's it. So these are the features from Gangetic Valley region, Ganga Basin region. Okay, so we talked about the Gandhara school, which was located in the Indus Basin, and then we talked about Mathura school, which is located in the Gangetic Basin. Now we are going to come down towards South India. So what are the Buddhist monuments of South India? No questions, so continuing. I know that this is a very dry area, but I know it also is very confusing. But you have to learn it anyway, because all these are very individual points, not so much logical, but at the same time, it can be called as logical because of the developments that happens over time. Okay, so anyway, let's continue. We have to learn this anyway. You can read the textbook and then use this for revision. This textbook is very small. Okay, so basically you can cover this textbook in a couple of days. So there will obviously the number of lectures are also very less, probably 4 to 5 lectures, maximum 5 lectures, won't go beyond that. Okay, so coming to South India, Vengi in Andhra Pradesh is a very important site. Similarly, Jagayapeta, Amaravati, Bhattiprodu, Nagarjunakonda, Goli, all these are important sites of Buddhist monuments in South India. Amaravati being one of the most important ones. Amaravati has a Mahachaitya. Mahachaitya means prayer hall. Mahachaitya means a very great prayer hall, large one. Also, Amaravati Stupa, very important. In Amaravati Stupa, the Pradakshinapada is enclosed within a Vedika, so that outer railing is there. It also has many narrative sculptures. The Dominical Stupa structure is covered with relief stupa sculptural slabs, which is a unique feature. So that Dominical Stupa, which means this one, the Anda area, okay, that is the Dominical Stupa portion in the shape of a dome. This Dominical Stupa structure is covered with relief stupa structural slabs, which means it is like many structural slabs are added, and each of these structural slabs will have some kind of a narrative inscribed into it. So that is again a feature of Amaravati Stupa. Okay, Torana has disappeared over the period of time. Gateways are not seen in Amaravati. Life of the Buddha and Jataka stories are again carved into the stupa, just like North India. Early phase is devoid of Buddha images, but later on, images of Buddha is carved. Early phase, again, Buddha is symbolized by relics and all. Human figure is not there. But in later phase, we start to see Buddha and a human face. Sculptural form, very intense emotions, slender figures, lots of movement, Tribhanga structure. Tribhanga posture means what? 3 bends of the body. That is the Tribhanga. I think this one shows Tribhanga. Okay, it's kind of Nadaraja, etc. shows the Tribhanga posture. Okay, this one also to an extent shows the Tribhanga. There are 3 bends in the body. Okay, so that can be seen here. So all these features are very well seen in Amaravati school, in general South Indian schools of Buddhist monuments. Clear? Sculptural form, naturally. Intense emotions. Slender figure, lots of movement, Tribhanga posture. Sculptural composition is much more complex than at Sanchi. So better works. Linearity becomes flexible. Not, the strict adherence to the linearity is not there anymore. You can see an example here. A carving on the outer wall of a stupa in Amaravati. Look at this image. Linearity is not, very strictly practiced. It is very much well flexible. The depiction is much more, intense. Lots of movement are there. It is much more complex than Sanchi. Many Tribhanga postures can be seen if you observe it very clearly. Emotions also are very well shown in the faces. Okay, the bodily features are very slender. All these constitute the Amaravati school of Buddhist art. Pronounced volume, angular bodies and complex overlapping. Again, all can be seen here. Pronounced volume, complex overlapping, angular bodies. Movement in the figures get reduced in sculptures of Nagarjunakonda and Goli in the 3rd century CE. Although in Amaravati school, movement and all are very there, and even in general in South India, movement etc. is very high up till 3rd century CE. In 3rd century CE, we find many sculptures in Nagarjunakonda and Goli, both of them very important South Indian Buddhist sites. In both these areas, we see that the movement of the figures gets reduced a lot. Alright, independent Buddha images are found in Amaravati, Nagarjunakonda, Gundapilla, etc. etc. So just think about it. As time went on, Buddhism started to take certain Brahmanical things into its fold. Adultery also came up in Buddhism. So naturally, Buddha was given that kind of an image, and we start to find a lot of Buddha images as such. The human figure starts to be seen in the later post-Mauryan era. So best example are seen in Amaravati, Nagarjunakonda, Gundapalle, etc. Gundapalle is a rock-cut cave near Ellora region of Andhra Pradesh, and we find small apsidal and circular Chaitya halls. Circular Chaitya halls means it's basically the shape is that of a circle. And what is an apsidal wall? Apsidal hall means it's more like this. Okay, apsidal. So that kind of Chaitya halls can also be seen in Ellora region of Andhra Pradesh. Then there is Anagapalle near Visakhapatnam, another important site. In Karnataka, we have Sarnath in Gulbarga district, having the largest stupa site excavated so far. Okay, Sarnath in Gulbarga district is actually the largest stupa site that has been so far excavated, and that is in Karnataka. Along with the images of Buddha, in this period of time, we start to find lot of other images also, such as Avalokiteshvara, Padmapani, Vajrapani, Amitabha, Maitreya Buddha, etc. etc. Why? Why are these images coming up at this point of time? Because this is the time when Vajrayana form or the Tantric form of Buddhism comes up. And Vajrayana form is associated with many bodhisattvas such as Avalokiteshvara, Padmapani, etc. etc. So naturally, all such forms also feature from the sculptural works from this time onwards. Okay, so again, you can see a panel from Nagarjunakonda, as I have mentioned, that volume, okay, or that fleshy character, that, three-dimensionality is gone. It's much more strict. Okay, if you compare the Amaravati sculpture with that one, look at the Sangal sculpture, and then look at the Nagarjunakonda sculpture. See, huge difference. The artisanal quality is comparatively very less. There is no volume at all, only very minute, okay, very shallow, not at all, say, sensual in any character. See, huge differences has occurred within a period of 200 years. Now coming to certain important caves. Cave tradition in Western India. So we looked in North India, we came to South India, now going to Western India, where we find some very important caves. Ajanta, Ellora, Elephanta, everything comes here. So in general, we see three architectural types here. One is apsidal vault roof Chaitya halls. As I have already shown you, there is an apsidal kind of vault. Best example, Ajanta, Pithalkora, Bhaja, etc. Then apsidal vault roof pillarless hall. Okay, without any kind of pillar construction. That is found at Thana Nadsur in Maharashtra. And then we have flat roofed quadrangular hall with circular chamber at the back. Flat roof quadrangular hall with a circular chamber at the back. This is found at Kondavite in Maharashtra. Okay, just study an example for each kind of this. Apsidal vault roof Chaitya halls are found in Ajanta, Pithalkora, etc. etc. Apsidal vault roof pillarless hall are found at Thana Nadsur in Maharashtra. Flat roof quadrangular hall with a circular chamber at the back is seen in Kondivite in Maharashtra. Okay, now the front of the Chaitya hall, we can see semicircular Chaitya arch. Okay, in the one of the earlier figures, I showed you that there is a semicircular Chaitya arch in the front of all these caves. All right. Wooden facade may have also been there, but we cannot find a wooden facade as such because wood disintegrated over time. But historians believe that it could have been there. But we do not find any evidence of such a wooden facade in Kondavite. Kondavite is an exception. In all the Chaitya caves, a stupa at the back is common. Clear, Chaitya is a prayer hall. So naturally, they pray to a stupa. Okay, so in most of these Chaitya halls, we can actually find a stupa towards the back. You can see one here. This is the Chaitya hall in Karla. And you can see a stupa in the further end of the hall. Okay, this is not a pillarless hall. This is a pillared hall. And at the back, towards the back end, you can actually see a stupa. All right, so Karla is the biggest rock cut Chaitya hall. Biggest rock cut Chaitya hall can be seen in Karla. Quadrangular flat roofed variety became the most preferred design and extensively found in many places. So out of these three architectural types that we mentioned earlier, quadrangular flat roofed structures became most popular and can be seen in many number of places. Okay, now viharas are excavated in all these cave sites. So naturally, if you have a prayer hall, there should be a place very near where the Buddhist monks can live also. So residential apartment complexes such as viharas can also be seen in most of these cave sites. And these consist of veranda, a hall and cells around the wall of the hall. Just like a residential place, okay, a veranda is there, then many halls are there, surrounding the walls inside. Interior decorative motifs such as Chaitya arches and Vedika designs over the cell doors of the cave. Okay, beautiful. You can see the odd images here. In all these images, you can see the beautiful carvings and motifs added for beautifying the entire thing. All right. Then in the there is examples include Junnar in Maharashtra, where Ganesh Leni cave is there. The name given to that cave is Ganesh Leni. Why? Because we find a Ganapati kind of figure within it. That is why it is known as Ganesh Leni. All right. So Junnar has the largest cave excavations. Junnar is in Maharashtra. Here we find the largest cave excavations, including Ganesh Leni. More than 200 caves can be seen. In Junnar town, we can actually find around 200 plus caves. Whereas Kanheri in Mumbai has 108 excavated caves. Highest number is in Junnar. Kanheri is also a prominent site. We can find as many as 108 excavated caves there. In Junnar, we find the most number, 200 plus. So now coming to one by one, important ones, Ajanta. So where is Ajanta caves located? I know this is very dry. I know that you are all very bored by this point of time. I'm sorry for that. But these are all, point by point things. It's not like a story that we have studied so far. All right. So, but anyway, we have to study this. So please bear with me. Okay. Ajanta. So where is Ajanta Caves located? Ajanta Caves are located in Maharashtra. It is in Aurangabad district of Maharashtra. There are about 29 caves, 4 Chaitya caves, and decorated with sculptures, paintings, etc. etc. Only surviving example of painting of the 1st century BC to 5th century CE. Very important. Ajanta caves are the only example of paintings from 1st century BC and 5th century CE, not BC, CE. Okay, facade is decorated with Buddha and Bodhisattva images. Naturally, apsidal vault roof variety. Okay, Ajanta caves are apsidal vault roof variety. Earlier also we noted this. It's not quadrangular or anything, it is apsidal vault. Cave number 26 is very important because this is where we can see the very famous Mahaparinibbana image. In cave number 26. It will be good if you can remember the cave number. Mahaparinibbana or the Samadhi, okay, the death of Buddha is shown in cave number 26. Important patterns of Ajanta were Varahadeva. Not too much important, it's not so much important for us. I will just read through it. Varahadeva, who patronized cave number 16. Then Harisena and Upendragupta, who was patron of cave number 17 to 20. Local king of the region and feudatory of Agadaga king is Harisena. Then Buddhabhadra, patron of cave number 26 again. And Mathuradasa, patron of cave number 4. Not much important. I just copied down from the textbook. That's all. Just read through them. Not important. So you can see some very beautiful paintings from Ajanta. Painting in the cave number 9 is shown here. Cave number 10. Okay. Then cave number 17 is seen here. Then in another example from cave number 17 is shown here. So all these, look at the quality of the work. These paintings are still preserved after all these years, after about 2000 years. All these are still very much there. So that was the superior quality of the artisans in those period. Okay, so the figures are heavy like the structures of Western India. Okay, very heavy. It's very rounded, fleshy kind of painting. It's not stiff or it's not very, characterless or anything. Colors are limited. So naturally, colors are limited. Considerable naturalism is achieved. Events grouped together according to geographical location. Clear. Based on geographical location, various events are grouped together. Earlier itself, I explained the same thing when we talked about sculptures. So what are the colors used? Prominent colors which we see are brown, yellow-brown, greenish, and yellow ochre for depicting human beings. All these colors are shown or used for depicting human beings. What does this show? This shows that there existed a multicolored population. Okay, we can understand that there existed a multicolored population and the artist has depicted that difference while painting. So that means color was an important thing at that point of time, right? From that we can infer the kind of society. There was some kind of distinction or differentiation in the society based on color. Understood now? So this is how we can connect an art and architecture work to the society. When we yesterday in class, I told you that in prehistoric times and all, we do not have any written records as such. So we have to go by certain other things to understand about prehistoric times. So using such artifacts, we can understand a lot about using cave paintings, etc. We can understand a lot about the society. Here also same thing. By now we have lots of literary works and records to go by, but even then with paintings and sculptures and all, we can get to know a lot about society. If you look into a picture in Ajanta, you can see some features such as half closed eyes, elongated eyes, etc. Okay, look into this picture. Elongated eyes can be seen. It is half closed door, so it's not fully open. Life of Buddha through Jataka tales, etc. and Avadanas are narrated, obviously. Events that happened in the jungle and events that happened in palaces are separated by their location. As I mentioned earlier, geographical location was very strict. So those events happened in the same geographical region is narrated together, and otherwise it is clearly narrated differently. So those events that happened in a palace setup is shown in a different area, and those that has happened in a forest setup is shown in a different area. We also find some other important paintings here, such as Chadanta, Padmapani, Vajrapani, etc. All these are very important, people. This is very boring, I know, but still very, very important. Why? Because a couple of years ago, one of the UPSC questions was Padmapani and Vajrapani are seen in which among the following caves? Ajanta, Ellora, Elephanta, Karla caves. Bagh caves. These were the options. So if you have read this slide, you will definitely know Vajrapani and Padmapani are seen in Ajanta caves. 2 marks done. Correct? 2 marks in prelims, I mean, it's huge, okay? In the end, that 2 marks is the thing that actually matters. I know it personally. All right? So make sure to get all these things into your head, because in the end, it is worth it. So Padmapani, Vajrapani, Chadanta are all seen in Ajanta caves. Coming to Ellora. Before that, any questions? Undying Sanchi Stupa has any influence from Islamic? No. Okay, Sanchi Stupa, and think about time period. Okay, Satya, think about time period, and you Undying Sanchi Stupa has any influence from Islamic art. If there has to be some influence from Islamic art, Islam should be born by them. Okay, when was the time Islam came into being? What was the time era of Prophet? Okay, you have to look into that first. All right, and then only we can say whether this one had influence from that one. In historical time period, based on chronology, Islam comes afterwards. Islam is a relatively very new religion. We are talking about Mauryan period, okay, in Ashoka's period, which is BC. Islam originated in AD. Only after Christianity did Islam originate. So no influence of Islam as such in these sites. Okay, I mean, I know why you asked that. Obviously, both has a dome kind of structure. That is the relation. But chronologically, Islam came afterwards, so it can't have any influence. Anyway, Ellora. Okay, so 34 Buddhist, Brahmanical, and Jain caves are seen in Ellora. Okay, Ellora caves is very important because in Ajanta it is predominantly Buddhism. But in Ellora caves, we can find examples of all three major religions of India, that is Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Okay, and we can see works from 5th century Common Era to 11th century Common Era. Clear? Now, 12 Buddhist caves having many images belonging to Vajrayana Buddhism like Tara, Mahamayuri, then Akshobhya, Avalokiteshvara, Maitreya, Amitabha, etc. are seen in Ellora. Clear? Vajrayana Buddhism. Now, Buddhist caves are very big in size and are of single, double, and triple stories. Very important. We can see caves having 1 story, 2 story, and 3 story. The only double story cave of Brahmanical faith is cave number 14. Only double storied Hindu cave in Ellora is cave number 14. Many caves are dedicated to Shaivism, but the images of both Shiva and Vishnu and their various forms according to Puranic narrative are depicted. As I have mentioned, these caves have Brahmanical features, Buddhist features, and Jainist features. So naturally, Vaishnavism and Shaivism are part of Brahmanism. So Vishnu and Shiva images from Puranic narratives are seen. Example, Ravana shaking Mount Kailash. Again, that is a part of Purana. That is seen. Andhagasuravada, another very important event from Purana, also seen. Kalyana Sundara, again shown. So these kinds of beautiful paintings can be seen in Ellora. Okay, Ravana shaking Mount Kailash, Andhagasura Vadha, and Kalyana Sundara. Various guilds at Ellora came from different places like Vidarbha, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, etc. and carved sculptures. It's not done by the local artisans alone. Okay, people came from different parts of South India and all of them contributed into this cave. Cave number 16, very famous cave known as Kailash Leni. This is the cave where we find the rock-cut temple, which is carved out of a single rock. You know the Kailash temple, right? In Ellora, you have this very beautiful Shiva temple This is known as the Kailash Leni, the rock cut temple. It's carved out of a single rock. Okay, and this is in cave number 16. Very important. Bagh caves consisting of Buddhist mural paintings can be seen in Madhya Pradesh, and this belongs to Shatavahana period. This is not associated with Ellora. This is a different set of caves. This is known as the Bagh caves. So Bagh caves is related to Buddhism, and it is located in Madhya Pradesh, and it is from the Shatavahana period. Most significant of the 5 caves is cave number 4, commonly known as Rang Mahal. So in Bagh caves, there are about 5 caves in total. Most important one is cave number 4, and that is known as Rang Mahal. Okay. Last of the 3 important sets of caves, we looked into Ajanta and Ellora. Finally, Elephanta. After this, I will take your questions. Okay, Elephanta. So Elephanta and other sites. Okay, we will look into some other things also, but Elephanta caves is the last of the major caves. Elephanta caves is again located near Mumbai. It is of Shaivite faith. Very important. It is contemporary of Ellora. Very, very, very important. It is a contemporary of Ellora. Slenderness in the body with stark light and dark effects can be seen. Individual points, please by heart them. In Karnataka, okay, we find at Badami and Aihole, we find some other important workmanship related to Chalukya period. Similarly, Andhra Pradesh in the area of Vijayawada and in Tamil Nadu, especially Mahabalipuram region and all, we can see some works from Pallavas. So these are logical. We already know that Pallavas ruled towards the north of Pandyas. So naturally, the Andhra Pradesh region, Tamil Nadu region, etc., Vijayawada part and all. So we have Pallava art and architectural works from that area. The Karnataka region was ruled by Chalukyas. These are the things we already know, the Western Gangas, Chalukyas, etc. So Chalukyan art and architecture can be seen in the Karnataka region, in Badami and Aihole and all. Alright, so now let's go to cave traditions in Eastern India. So we looked into Northern India, we looked into South India, West India, and now finally moving on to the last section, that is Eastern Indian region. Questions. Monuments in Sanchi starts from 3rd century BC and ends with 12th century CE. Maybe, not sure. Did not pay focus on that particular stupa time period. Okay, I mean, Satya, you are correct. Okay, obviously things were added. So naturally, some of the features were added very late, but the main features were there from the beginning. Okay, I mean, I already told you. Initially, for example, in the Sarnath and all, the original work was made of brick, and later it was covered with stone. So the original brickwork was done earlier itself, in Ashoka's time itself. Later additions like Toranas, circumambulatory path, etc. came later. But that stupa was always there now. So it's no, I don't think, I will look into it. Okay, I mean, since you asked this question, I will definitely look into it to confirm it. But I don't think Islam would have influenced Sanchi Stupa at this point of time. Maybe some later additions, I will look into it. Okay, I mean, I do not want to confuse any kind of confusion, so I will definitely check it up, and I will update it tomorrow, also in the comment session today. I believe that there is no influence as such, that no direct influence anyway. If I find there are some influences, then I will definitely update it in the comment section. So cave traditions in Eastern India. All right. So Eastern India means Andhra Pradesh, Odisha part, etc. So coastal region of Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. In Andhra Pradesh, especially in the Gundapalle region in the Ellora district, structured stupas can be seen. Viharas are there, and the caves are also excavated. Chaitya cave is circular with stupa in the circular hall and a Chaitya arch carved in the entrance. All these are very basic things. Basically, the entire paragraph points to the fact that in Andhra Pradesh also we find Buddhist monuments such as stupas, viharas, chaityas, etc. etc. Alright, we find rectangular with vaulted roof and are carved single-storied or double-storied without a large central hall. This is a special feature in Eastern India. We find rectangular rooms with vaulted roof. Okay, and there are single-storied and double-storied halls but we do not see a large central hall as such. That is something peculiar about Eastern Indian cave traditions. Other important caves in cave site in Eastern India is Ramperampala. That is another important site in Eastern India. These are individual points, very dry topic, but just try to remember them. In Eastern India, plenty of sites are there, especially in Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. We find Buddhist monuments such as stupas, viharas, shaityas, etc. there. Okay, then we find that some are single storied, some are double storied. In general, they are rectangular with vault roof, and we do not see any kind of a large central hall in these Eastern Indian caves. One important site is Ramperambalam. Another one in Anakapalli near Visakhapatnam. This one has the biggest rock cut stupa in the country. Very important. Anakapalli near Visakhapatnam has the biggest rock cut stupa in the country. In Odisha, we find Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves in the vicinity of capital Bhubaneswar. Inscriptions of Kharavela Jain kings can be seen. So here, example of Jains. Okay, Kharavelas were Jains. So we find some Jaina caves in Udayagiri Khandagiri caves of Odisha. Clear? And these caves were clearly constructed for the purpose of Jaina monks. Here also you can see the beautiful carvings on top of the wall. You can see that semicircular arch-like door in the facade given to each of these doors. There are some pillars and all. There are verandas, etc. Okay, all these are seen in Odisha, Udayagiri, Khandagiri. Now we are looking into individual ones. Okay, Sanchi 1 Stupa, Stupa 1 at Sanchi, and some important works as such. Let me see if there are any notations regarding influence of Islam here. Okay, nothing's written here. All right, anyway. Where is this located? It is located in Madhya Pradesh. It is a World Heritage Site. It has 3 main stupas. So yeah, I was right. Okay, there are 3 main stupas. Stupa 1 contains relics of Buddha. Okay, there are 3 stupas in Sanchi. Stupa 1 contains relics of Buddha. Stupa 2 contains relics of the 10 Arhats. Alright, and Stupa 3 has relics of Sariputta and Mahamaugalayana. Alright, so just by heart them. Stupa 1 has relics of Buddha. Stupa 2 has relics of the 10 Arhats. And Stupa 3 has relics of Sariputta and Mahamaugalayana. All related to Buddhism. All these people, personalities are related with Buddhism. We have to study Stupa 1 in detail. So, Stupa 1, as far as it is concerned, carvings can be seen on its gateways. The Torana is shown here. You can look into these images for better understanding. Carvings are given in its gateways. It is a small brick structure. Later on, it was covered with stone and Vedika and Torana were added. Ashokan lion capital pillar can be seen here, but as I have mentioned, in Sanchi, the lion capital is it's not in a good condition. Okay, it disintegrated over time, and in Sarnath we found the whole thing in a single piece, but the shaft was broken, but the capital was as such. But the Sanchi lion capital is, not in a good, good condition. Okay, Buddha is shown. Upper Pradakshinapada is also seen in Sanchi. Buddha is shown symbolically as an empty throne, feet, chhatra, and stupas. So no Buddha image as such, but instead Buddha is shown through his relics. Stupa 1 is the oldest stupa. Among all the 3, Stupa 1 is the oldest. But images on Vedika of Stupa 2 are earlier than on Stupa 1. Very, very important. Although Stupa 1 is the oldest among the 3, still the images on the Vedika of 2nd is older than the one on 1st. So it is very clear that the first stupa was constructed and the second stupa was constructed, and the carvings were done first on second stupa. Only afterwards were the carvings added to the first stupa. Naturally, the carvings are based on Jataka tales, Buddha's life and previous lives and all, Bodhisattvas, etc. Guardian images on the pillars and the Salabhanchika can also be seen. You find these kinds of Dwarapalakas and Apsaras, etc. on temples and all, right? Apsaras, similarly, Salabhanchika, Dwarapalaka, all are features of Brahmanical things. So you can find guardian images on pillars and Shalavanjika in here as well, Sanchi Stupa as well. This is the actual image of Sanchi Stupa. Okay, so this part is called Anda. This is the Torana. All right, now this is Vedika. All right, then what did I miss? Okay, you can't see the circumambulatory path, but here you can see the upper circumambulatory path or Pradakshina Pada. Okay, then this is the Chhatri, umbrella like figure. And this is the Harmika, railing around the Chhatri. These are the different parts of a stupa. Okay, best example, Sanchi Stupa. Okay, now second important sculpture that we have to study about, seated Buddha, Katra Mount and Madura. So this one belongs to Kushana period. Okay, that is 2nd century CE, Common Era. Buddha is shown with 2 Bodhisattva attendants. I will show you the full image. Okay, here it is, seated Buddha, which belonging to the Kushana period. Buddha is shown with 2 Bodhisattvas surrounded, in both sides. Now, Padmasana, this position, okay, the cross-legged posture, the meditation posture is known as Padmasana. Okay, those who practice yoga and all know this very well. This is a meditation posture that we all use. It's called Padmasana. Now look into his hands. Okay, the right hand is in Abhaya Mudra. Sorry, this is Abhaya Mudra. This one. All the Hindu god images that we see, most of them, the god has this posture, blessing the devotee. That is Abhaya Mudra. All right. Now, left hand is placed on the left thigh. That you can see from this image itself. Ushanisha, that is hair knot. Hair knot can also be seen. See, there is a small hair knot here. That is Ushanisha. Okay, hair knot. Light volume having fleshy body. Shoulders are broad. Sankhiri or garment covers only one shoulder. All these are correct. It is, the shoulders are very broad. Okay, it is not proportional at all. Head is here. Shoulders are very long. Okay, and the drapery covers only one shoulder. It is over the left shoulder only. It's not over the right shoulder. Clear? And there is large volume having fleshy body. That is also correct. Very voluminous, very rounded body. Buddha is seated on a lion throne and Padmapani and Vajrapani are the 2 attendants. So if you look at it closely, you can see 3 lions. Okay, you can see 1 lion, 2 lion, 3 lion. So it is a lion throne. And you can see Padmapani and Vajrapani also. Okay, these 2 bodhisattvas are also shown. Halo around the head of Buddha is very large and is decorated with simple geometric motifs. Yes, halo is very large. Okay, and it is decorated with simple geometric motifs. Clear? So this is the seated Buddha from Kushana period. Now comes Buddha head that is obtained from Taxila region. Okay, this one, Buddha head that is obtained from Taxila. So naturally, Taxila is in the northwestern portion of Indian subcontinent, modern day Pakistan. So it is the Gandhara region. The period we are talking about is Post-Mauryan, so 2nd century CE to be more specific, and Kushana period naturally. As I mentioned earlier, this has a lot of influence from Greeks. So Greco-Roman elements can be seen here. Hellenistic elements, look into the eyes and all. This is not a typical Indian method of doing the eye. Look at the hair. Again, not something commonly seen on indigenous Indian sculptures. These are Hellenistic features that we see or we borrowed from Greco-Roman elements. Curly hair of Buddha. Okay, forehead plane is very large. Okay, let me show you the forehead. See, the forehead region, it is very large. Protruding eyeballs. Eyes are half closed. Correct. Eyeballs are protruding. You can see it from here. They are in a half closed posture and the face and cheeks are not round. Sorry. Is this round? No. Okay, this is more like an oval shape, right? It is not exactly round. Cheeks also, it is not fleshy cheeks. Okay, it is actually much more a straight kind of cheek. So it is not round at all. These are all features of the Buddha head from Taxila, the Gandhara region. The ears are elongated. Surface is smooth and interplay of light and shade. Sorry, and darkness or whatever. Okay, let me show you once again. Ears are elongated, very elongated ears. You can see the earring hole there, very long. You can see that there is a beautiful play of light and shade here, correct? And also, what is the other point? Yeah, smooth surface, very polished, very smooth surface, not at all a crude work, very brilliant artisanal quality, right? Expression of calmness, trait of Achaemenian, Parthian, and Bactrian traditions. Naturally, since this is obtained from Taxila, Gandhara school of art, we can find influences of foreign elements as well. Clear? All these are the trademarks of Gandhara style of architecture. Sorry, sculpture. Okay, now seated Buddha from Sarnath. We saw one seated Buddha from the Kushana period. Now we are going to see the seated Buddha in Sarnath region. This is from late 5th century Common Era, made of Chunar sandstone. Here also Buddha is situated, shown in a Padmasana posture, and this actually represents Dharmachakra Pravartana. Sarnath is the place where Buddha gave his first sermon, and this figure actually shows Dharmachakra Pravartana. This is it. Sarnath Buddha. Look at the halo behind. Look at the carving. Beautiful, workmanship. Typical feature of Sarnath school. Now, panel below the throne depicts a chakra or a wheel in the center and a deer on the side of his disciples. So you can see a chakra. Okay, you can see this chakra here. All right, and you can see that there are some disciples here, and you can see a couple of deers also, 1 and 2. 2 deers are also shown. Okay, drapery clings to the body and is transparent to create the effect of integrated volume. Can you see the drapery at all? That is the question. Very transparent. Okay, there is a drapery that you can understand from the thing that is shown here. But this drapery is very, very thin, very transparent, and all the bodily features can be seen as such. Face is very round, eyes are half closed, lower lip is protruding, and the roundness of the cheek has reduced as compared to the earlier images from Kushana period to Mathura. Right now, half closed eyes, you can see the lower lips are protruding, and the roundness of the cheeks has reduced as compared to earlier images from Kushana period from Mathura. All these are correct. Some Hellenistic features can be seen due to the influence of the Kushana period. Half closed eyes, very smooth surface. Alright. Now, hands are shown in the Dharmachakra Pravartana Mudra. This is the Dharmachakra Pravartana Mudra. Okay. In the other one, it was Abhaya Mudra. If you remember, in the other seated Buddha, it was Abhaya Mudra. Here, it is the Dharmachakra Pravartana Mudra. Back of the throne is profusely decorated with different motifs of flowers and creepers placed in concentric circles. The central part of the halo is plain without any decoration. Another feature of this school. Central part of the halo is not much decorated. In Mathura school, completely decorated halos can be seen. But here in Sarnath school, we see that the central part of the halo is not so much decorated. But there are decorations towards the outer rings. Very profusely carved. Transparent drapery becomes part of the physical body. That is also shown here. This is the seated Buddha that is obtained from Sarnath. Okay. Padmapani Bodhisattva in Ajanta Cave 1. This is the image. Padmapani. Why is this image called Padmapani? Pani means hand. Padma means lotus. So there is a hand in the lotus. That's it. Okay. You can see that flower, lotus flower in the hand. That is the reason why this image is known as Padmapani. This is from late 5th century Common Era, holding a Padma. Okay. And Tribhanga body. Okay. The 3 bends in the body can be seen here. Okay. Now, outlines are merged with the body volume. Also correct. There is a clear outline. Okay. This entire thing has a kind of an outline here. But this outline is actually merged with the body outline, a body color. So that gives much more realism. A big crown in which detailed rendering is visible. Eyes are half closed and slightly elongated. Correct? Very big crown. Beautiful work. Eyes are half closed and also at the same time elongated. Beaded necklace. Yep, beaded necklace. Right hand is holding a lotus and the left hand is extended in the space. Light red, brown, green and blue are the colors used. On the other side of the image, Vajrapani Bodhisattva has been painted. That is, Vajra means what? The lightning bolt. Okay, Vajra in his hand and wears a crown. Alright, I'm not sure if that can be seen here. Okay, maybe in this figure it is there. If you enlarge it, you might be able to see. Vajrapani figure is also shown. Mahajanaka Jataka, Umang Jataka can also be seen in this particular cave. Okay, Ajanta cave number 1. Mahajanaka Jataka is the biggest one and Umang Jataka can also be seen. Now, Mara Vijaya, Ajanta cave number 26. Another important cave. The only sculptural representation sculpted on the right wall of cave number 26 is Mara Vijaya. Only sculptural, this is not a painting, this is a sculptural representation. The only sculptural representation sculpted on the right wall of cave number 26 is Mara Vijaya. Okay, and Buddha in the center surrounded by Mara's army along with his daughter. You can see Buddha, okay, Buddha is shown in the center and then he is surrounded by Mara's army and Mara, the king with his daughter is shown here. Alright, Mara represents desire, earth as the witness to his generosity. So Buddha is in this meditation form, posture, and Mara is a say metaphor or it represents a symbolism of desire. And Buddha achieves enlightenment by conquering desire. So that is Mara Vijaya, conquering Mara, winning against Mara. Okay, that is the depiction, that is the imagery. The centrally placed Buddha is in Padmasana and a tree at the back shows dense leaves. Again, correct. Okay, you can see that Buddha is sitting in Padmasana and there is a tree. Okay, lots of leaves and all are there in this tree. Look at the hand gesture. Buddha is pointing towards earth. Right, look at the right hand. It is shown like this. I hope you can see. Okay, so that basically points towards earth. So earth as witness, Buddha has conquered Mara. Understood? So this is known as Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. Okay, Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. So that is the depiction of Mara Vijaya. This is the largest sculptural panel in Ajanta. Not painting, sculptural panel. Alright. Last one, Mahesh Murthy. Our final topic for the day, Mahesh Murthy. This is seen in Elephanta cave. This is from early 6th century, Western Deccan sculpting. Okay, obviously because it is in Elephanta, that is Maharashtra region. Central head is the main Shiva figure, whereas the other two visible heads are Bhairava and Uma. It is a three-headed sculpture. This is Shiva, this is Bhairava, and this is Uma. So this is a three-headed posture seen in Elephanta case. Face of Shiva Bhairava is clearly shown in profile in anger with bulging eye and mustache. Correct. Very angry face, bulging eye, mustache. Alright. Now, sculpture of Ardhanarishwara and Gandhara panel can also be seen here in Elephanta caves. So, it's not shown here, but we can see Ardhanarishwara. Ardhanarishwara is the half Shiva, half Parvati figure. And Gangadhara. Gangadhara means the Shiva wearing Ganga. That also can be seen here, but not depicted. Okay, so these are the important ones. That's why I took them separately. It's given separately in the textbook also. Read the textbook at least once. Okay, the points all are here, but read the textbook once and then use these slides for reviewing and revisiting certain important points. I know that this was a very confusing class. I am pretty sure most of you are very confused and you may not be able to remember anything very clearly unless you have studied this portion already. But even if that is the case, don't worry about it. Once you read it once again, you will definitely have much more clarity and you will be able to remember all these things very easily. Okay, so any final questions? Monuments in Sanchi starts from, okay, that's I already read. In Gandhara art, we find regional art influences. Do we find the same in Mathura art also? Mathura art is, yes, Mathura art is more or less, comparatively compared to Gandhara art, Mathura is more indigenous. Okay, and we find some elements later on, some influence because of Kushana period and all, some influences are there in Mathura school, but predominantly Mathura school is an indigenous, originally it is an indigenous school. Now, many folds in drapery feature of Mathura art. Yes, correct. Many folds in drapery is a feature of Mathura art. That I think I explained in one of the previous slides. All right. I mean, now you will be confused, obviously. Okay, what are the features of Mathura art? What are the features of Gandhara? What is the difference between Gandhara and Mathura, or Mathura and Sarnath, or Sarnath and Amaravati? Okay, don't worry about it. Once you read all these things once again, and once you properly study, things will become very clear and it will be easier for you. All right. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact me personally. Also, you can either post your questions in YouTube underneath this video. I will definitely get back to you. Or you can post the questions to me in WhatsApp or through Telegram channel. The link and my contact number are given in this Telegram channel. Okay. The link is given underneath in the description section also. Please visit it. All right. Please like this video, share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. And we will see again tomorrow with the next couple of chapters from art and culture. Okay, so that is it for the day. Thank you all for joining. Until tomorrow, bye bye.